are watching NewsX World. We have just, of course, concluded our coverage of the FBI press conference in Utah, which gave us the latest on the developments of that murder that we all saw, Charlie Kirk, who died yesterday, speaking at Utah Valley University. Now let's give you the latest. Federal and state officials say they are making active progress in the investigation into the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. At a joint press conference, the FBI and Utah DPS revealed that a high-powered rifle believed to be the murder weapon has been recovered and is now being analysed at an FBI lab. Officials also confirmed they have video and images of the suspect, described as a college-aged male who blended in well on campus. Authorities also say that the shooter moved across a rooftop to a vantage point, fired, and then fled into a nearby neighbourhood. They're now analysing footprints and other imprints from the scene. The FBI says the broader community is not at risk, but is urging the public to come forward with any tips. The Utah DPS vowed that they will catch this individual. Okay, this has obviously been a developing story all day, and the world is reeling from this. We are now joined by Erik Solheim. He's the former Minister of International Development and Environment of Norway, and he joins us live from the Norwegian capital. Thank you very much, Erik, for joining us on the broadcast. This shooter is known to be still at large. The FBI and detectives from Utah have pleaded for evidence, video evidence, physical evidence, whatever the public does have. Of course, we have seen previous political violence in the United States, but what are your thoughts on how this investigation is going and your initial response to that press conference that we just heard?
I'm pretty confident that the person who committed this crime will be apprehended and brought to a court. It's very, very hard for anyone to make anything like this and not being arrested. So I'm sure that will happen. But I think the bigger picture is that we are at a very dangerous point in American history. There's a lot of economic uncertainty. There's a lot of racial anxiety. There is a lot of inflammatory speech. And Americans can't really come together to fight this violence in society. I mean, weapons are so widespread that when you have inflammatory speech, it can easily turn into violence. And we have seen more violence, more political violence over the last period. And unfortunately, maybe even worse.
Yes, and Erik, obviously this is part of a pattern. I mean, political violence in America has been there since its foundation. However, young people in America recently have seemed to be at the center of it in 2025, and of course the 2024 election. We are actually creeping up on the anniversary of the Trump assassination attempt, which was perpetrated by a young person who was killed at the scene. And then who can forget Luigi Mangione, another assassination that can be seen as political also. And now we're being told by the FBI and investigators in Utah that this suspect is a young person who fit in at college age. What does that say about the feeling of young people in the United States right now, and the breadths that they will go to make a political message?
I think it's very dangerous that political leaders in America jump to conclusions before anything is known. Even the president has said that this was the act of the violent left. Well, we don't know. It may be, but we don't know. Elon Musk said the same. While on the other side, the Democrats in the Congress, they don't really want to come strong condemning this, claiming that other violent attacks has been as important or as bad as this. It's a very split society, very divided, and with a lot of guns. Look, if you go to the rest of the world, to Europe, to India, to China, it's not that everyone has a weapon in their home or in the bag. When you spread weapons like that, it makes society much more vulnerable. It's for sure possible to kill a person with a knife or even with your hands. Just it's much more difficult and much less likely to happen. And when guns are widespread, like in America, it's much easier to turn into violence. There were 47,000 gun-related deaths in the United States in 2023, while of course most of them were not political. It speaks loudly about the danger of widespread guns like in the US.
Yes, and Eric, a tool that cannot cease to be forgotten in this is social media. Of course, we saw footage of Charlie Kirk spiraling around the likes of X and Reddit and other social media forums. It also has been there with people expressing their views. Possibly you can see it as stoking the partisan divide in America. How do you think long-term social media is going to impact the political fallout of this incident?
Because the great irony of this incident is that Charlie Kirk was the great defender of guns in America. He even argued that the price of school shootings, etc., at the end of the day was a price America would have to accept to defend the right for everyone to carry a weapon. So he was a very divisive figure. He attacked minorities like blacks and Jews and others, and he supported guns, which at the end of the day very easily turn into gun violence. None of this is an excuse for this heinous attack, but it's a background for the situation. And I think the US is now in a vicious circle. It can even be worse. Let's assume that there were some left-wing activists who committed this crime. Well, you can see right-wing people jumping to act, to fight back. And it's very hard to see how it will stop. And of course, social media is amplifying this because everyone is speaking just to their own crowd. You get applause from your own crowd when you speak very, very strongly, rather than trying to bring people together. Look into what Americans have together in common. They are focusing on the divides.
And Eric, finally, of course, you've mentioned that Charlie Kirk was a huge supporter of gun rights in America. However, when incidents like this have happened previously in other countries, we've seen legislation be brought in. Now, guns in America are done on a state-to-state basis when it comes to their laws. However, everyone does have the right to carry a firearm under the Second Amendment. Do you see any kind of legalities or reforms coming in? Not, of course, maybe not at a federal level, but maybe on Utah's level after this very, very public incident here?
There is unfortunately every reason to be pessimistic, because even the most horrible school shootings where 20 or more children have been killed has not led to any major initiatives to make it more difficult to carry weapons in the United States. Then attacks have happened in other parts of the world, like in Australia. Even the Conservatives took the lead in implementing stricter gun laws. Of course, there is no one in Europe, in India, in China, or in any other nation in the world who claim that it's a right to carry a weapon. I was with a taxi driver in the Texas city of San Antonio. He told me he had 13 weapons. He had just given a new weapon to his girlfriend. This is very dangerous because then small incidents may turn into big affairs. It's much more easy to kill people with guns than with any other method. So curbing the guns in American society is a critical issue, but there is no political support for that, at least not from the Republican Party at the moment. And it's the mix of very inflammatory speech on social media economic and racial anxiety in society, and the widespread guns is a mix which is simply dangerous. Fortunately, we don't have the same mix in most other parts of the world. So this is an American problem. I mean, nearly all school shootings in the world is happening in one country alone, that's in the United States. But we can only hope that Americans can come together to find policies which will reduce the chance of more violence in the future.
Yes, Erik Solheim, thank you very much for joining us and speaking to us on the broadcast. We are, of course, covering the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We have just heard from an FBI briefing. We know that the suspect is college age, and authorities have found a gun, a high-powered rifle. That's what they have said in the press conference we have just watched. John Rosamondo joins us now. He is the president of Viking Research Associates and geopolitical analyst, and he joins us live from Washington, D.C. John, a huge day, an unprecedented attack that we all saw in front of hundreds of people occur. What are you? I'm unsure if you watched the press conference. However, what have you made of the announcements that they have made? Is that yes, there was in fact a shooter on that roof, and that the shooter is expected to, is of college age, and they used a high-powered bolt-action rifle, and also the fact that the authorities are still pleading for evidence from the public in order to aid them in this investigation.
Well, based on the angle of attack, the precision, I mean, the shooter shot Charlie Kirk in the carotid artery, which leads to death almost instantly. The talk among the people who I talked to say that they believe it was a professional hit. And this bolt-action rifle is something that's kind of like new. We haven't seen something like this in a long time.
John, what's your thought of the political fallout that's going to occur here? Of course, Donald Trump, a huge ally of Kirk's, and Kirk a huge supporter of Donald Trump and his presidential campaign. Kirk put a lot of backing in regards to his social media campaigns when it came to the 2024 election, and has been a vocal supporter of the investigation into the death of Charlie Kirk. However, now we move over to Europe, where Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky met